Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Social Media Strategy Questions and Answers. My name is Austin Mayer, and I design strategies for companies and nonprofits. I've been in IT since 2004, training clients in web conferencing. What I want to do is I want to get to Michelle Castillo's question as soon as possible and jump right into the content. On March 3rd, 2012, we had what's called a Networking with Purpose event organized by Ricky Shetty. Here's the website. Michelle actually, during a speaker panel, we had a social media speaker panel, and I'll talk about that in a second. But Michelle asked an interesting question, and that is, what strategy can I use using social media for my event? It looks like Michelle organizes WordPressInsider.org, and this essentially teaches people how to use WordPress in physical in-person events. Um, Now, at this social media panel, it's in Vancouver, and we had Josh Reimer, Donna Wilson, Bosco Anthony, Matt Astafan, and myself. Unfortunately, we didn't really have enough time to provide a deep answer. The answers from the speaker panel didn't really stick to the original question, and I felt like we just kind of provided a general rule of thumb in social media engagement. So this actually inspired me, and of course I'm guilty as well. I'm not trying to blame everybody else, but in terms of the amount of time that we had, we did the best we could. This has inspired me to create this question and answer channel. I talked about geolocation during my answer. I talked about checking in using Foursquare and Facebook Places as well. Twitter hashtags can be pretty popular. We use that in networking with purpose as well. And you see here, you know, the NWP. I'm not going to try to navigate to it right now, but um, here we go. Here it is here. Okay, so the latest tweets, you'll notice that the hashtag that we use is NWPVan. So what's a good strategy for social media before, during, and after an event? Well, what I really want to do here is provide a lot of content as much as possible within 10 minutes. The first step that you should really pull off here is mapping it all out. So determine what your objectives are. For example, with networking with purpose, we try to get as many visitors as possible and as much engagement as possible, and then of course raise as many funds as possible and create those hands up for homeless folks. So ending homelessness by 2015. Um, Essentially, once you map everything out, what you really want to do is you want to stick to that, you want to maintain it, you want to update it. Essentially, once you have that visualization, you can move forward with your what I call bread and butter. Let me expand on that a bit. This is my bread and butter. This is Twitter. This is for Social Central. This is Facebook. This is my LinkedIn account. Okay. I also have a company page on LinkedIn. Um, and essentially, these are the top 3 to 5 social networks. Pareto's principle, or the 80-20 rule. I tell clients this because you want to spend 80% of your social media time in your bread and butter social networks. Again, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Okay. Particular to events, you'd want to use Facebook Places, and you want to tap into Twitter hashtags as well. There are certain ways of using LinkedIn because, especially if it's a networking or a professional event that you're organizing. Moving on to the next component of Pareto's principle is the 20%. I see this as the experimental aspect of your social media plan or map. The 20% would include sites like Foursquare, Meetup.com. You can use Meetup check-ins for your event, and also Eventbrite. Eventbrite it's a pretty solid website. You can source out tickets. You can source out, put on the details of your event, and it's all hosted on Eventbrite itself. Here it is in the Social Central database. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, what happened at the social media panel, was Google Plus Hangouts. I wanted to host a Google Plus Hangouts and Ricky as well, and so we organized it, and it didn't go well as planned. The reason is because that afternoon, Google released this. It's called Masks. This is essentially just a functionality where users can come onto Google Plus Hangout and put a mask and superimpose it on their own face. So they can be a dog or a cat, Now, of course, Google is, in a sense, alienating professionals. There's a lot of professionals on Google Plus, for instance, photographers and tech savvy people, social media professionals, etc. They're really alienating those users. Now, Google Plus to me is still an experimental, so that still falls within my 20% social media time. Okay, what I'm doing though is I'm tracking this. Tracking was one of the words used by another social media panelist. And what he really meant was analytics. What I mean by analytics is to install a script on your site and you can track. In this case, you would install a script on your event page and you can track where people are coming from, what specific social networks they're coming to that specific event page. That's a really good way to track digitally. Of course, in person, you can ask your participants, what they're using for the most part. Are people using Facebook to come into your event? Are they using Twitter, for example? So another experimental for me is StumbleUpon. StumbleUpon's a great website for traffic. It's actually ranked number 1 in terms of driving social traffic to websites, above Facebook, believe it or not. The reason is because you just click this stumble button and you go through web pages that are really interesting. Other people have voted them up. So I come up here and I can click the thumb up and this is specific to business. So I change the category and I can go into cars, for example. Okay. So this is an experimental network. And one of the things that I want to stress to you, though, is to make sure that you have this script, the analytics installed so that you can see where they're coming from. And that can include Meetup as well. So if you're organizing a Meetup group, you can install that on your Meetup group itself. Okay. Now let's jump into some data here. Okay. So on Social Central, the amount of time that a referring visitor has committed to is, say, 3 or 4 minutes on Social Central from Meetup. A visitor coming from StumbleUpon is ranked as number 2, so they may be 3.5 minutes. Google Plus is actually number 3. So this, in terms of, you could see that as kind of loyal visitors. These are people that are staying on your website. They're exploring your website the most. Okay, so this is a good insight that you can pull from your Google Analytics. And same thing with your event page, right? Sticking to the strategy, you map everything out. Your experimental sites will appear in here. For example, my experimental site is Google Plus and StumbleUpon, right? Meetup is kind of falls within my bread and butter in my top 5 because I attend quite a few Meetup groups. Okay, Facebook is number 4, as you see. YouTube is number 5. Let's move on to the number of visitors. So the number of visitors coming from social networks, Facebook is ranked as number 1 in terms of referring traffic. What I mean by that is the number of people that are coming to Socio Central from Facebook is more than StumbleUpon, and then more than YouTube, and it's ranked that way. One of the insights that I've had is that Twitter is number 6, whereas YouTube is number 3. I've spent a lot of time on Twitter for the last over a year now on my corporate account, whereas YouTube, I just started my YouTube corporate account for Socio Central, and I've just started barely getting traction, and my YouTube is already number 3 in terms of referring traffic. So this is this type of stuff that you'll learn from your analytics. And going back to your strategy, you need to maintain that, and you want to refine it as you move forward. Okay. One of the things you might consider again is to just to kind of reiterate here is to install the analytics script on your web page, on your event details page, on your website, and on your Meetup group if you're organizing a Meetup group. In Google Analytics, you can actually do this by setting up goals. And the goals within the conversions section will provide insight where if you set it up correctly, you will see where they're coming from and they've met that goal. So hopefully that makes sense. Keep an eye out for goals within your Google Analytics account. Of course, you can do similar things on enterprise level analytics as well, but you're probably going to have to talk to one of your IT guys at your company there. So anyway, that's all the time I have in this question and answer episode. Subscribe to my channel and feel free to submit your questions for a future episode by writing on facebook.com/, SocioCentral's wall, and I'd be happy to get those answered for you as soon as possible. Of course, my fan page is in the description of this video as well. So have yourselves a great day, and hope this content was very helpful for you. Take care for now.